Pleasant good morning to our breakfast show, the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television. We're broadcasting live from our Media One Center, 3 Mama Street, Brookfields in Freetown. My name is Abdul Rahman Kabar. Top stories in the program. Vice President Dr. Mohamed Julde Jallo has assured foreign missions on develop operational policies and practices to address critical challenges in a 3-day seminar organized by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Relations at the Golden Tulip Kimbima Hotel in Freetown. The Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs, Amara Kalon, has updated journalists on the implementation of the recommendations of the Buntu Humanitarian Conference. We shall also be looking at where the executive of the Kenema Old Student Association has on Friday, 21st June 2019, handed over the mantle of leadership to the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Ali Kaba, at a ceremony held at the Bank Complex, Kintom, where he outlined plans on how he intends to move the executive forward. All these, including sport, will be part of the program. Remember, you can be part of this program. Tune into Star Television Channel 21, and you can follow the discussion live on YouTube and also our Facebook page. The Star Good Morning Show is proudly sponsored by Rokel Commercial Bank.
Did you say you want to talk to me?
Yes, my brother. I get stress, bank stress. I ain't doing right. So I put money in my bank, no problem. So I put money in my bank, no problem. I was mapping a line all day just for put money and pull money. And the loan system, look me business, they go down the drain. We don't get loan system. Me, I just tired.
Now that's the stress you.
Yes, my brother. Now me stress standing.
Let that not be you stress. Because me your bank was the bank when I Rokel Commercial Bank. When are the award-winning bank for 2018, where they don't win so many awards inside Freetown and even self outside Salon. Yes, they even recognize them at the international world as they win one of the most prestigious awards from Nigeria as the best corporate bank na Salon. They don't even count financial inclusion, which it means they want to involve everybody in a salon. Never mind the kind of business they do. If na pepper self they sell in the market or any other petty business they do, then even self they don't left their comfort zone for going to bonds. When at the island, when you don't say, when people that avoid for the banking business, they don't go there for let the people themselves they part of the financial inclusion within the part. And self they get plenty other products where you will meet you day-to-day needs. Then gets like the keke account. When for them boys and when they ride the keke them. And self then gets the Osusu account. Then get MasterCard, other platform that they will take money like SimCorp. When a new banking system where they don't count the business now inside his phone they do out. You know, you don't need for go, you need to snap that long queue. As then at the award-winning bank, they want to maintain that standard and they want to satisfy the customers. Let them make sure say everybody can inside the bank system. Then nobody not left out. Now for can open account to them, it's simple. You 50,000, 100,000, you're okay.
Thank you, my brother. I need for one go now Rokel Commercial Bank right now. I be no drink so that they go this a good news.
Rokel Commercial Bank, mama. Rokel Commercial Bank, bank with Rokel Commercial Bank, #1. Bank with Rokel Commercial Bank.
Welcome back from that commercial break. We'll move along with the program. The Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs, Amara Kalon, has updated journalists on the implementation of the recommendation of the Buntu Humanitarian Conference. Here is highlights of that report.
In his manifesto, he was then the flag bearer of the Sierra Leone People's Party, and at that time he was referred to as Julius Maada Bio. And as a PhD candidate for peace and conflict, he was smart and bold enough to tell the people of Sierra Leone that amidst the numerous gains we are getting, amidst the democratic, build-up in our nation, we still have problem with ourselves as a nation. And that means we are divided across tribal lines, regional lines, and party lines. And all the issues that were raised in the TRC report, on which the last 11 years war was hinged, are now surfacing in this nation. And in this war, they said that there is a need for us to establish a peace infrastructure. And on the first opening of Parliament on the 10th May 2018, he made the proposal in the form of a proclamation that we need to have a Peace and National Cohesion Commission. And for us to be able to establish a commission like that, we need to do consultation, and that should be heralded by a national dialogue forum. And from that statement, the Chief Minister took the bold step of developing a green paper with consultants and other partners. And the green paper laid the foundation for the national consultation that will inform the agenda for the National Dialogue Forum. Across the country on the 23rd of March 2018, we are in all districts in this country holding community meetings to draw opinions and gauge the perception of people as to what a commission they would want to see. The report from that consultation informed the agenda for the National Dialogue Forum, which we dubbed as Bintimani 3. After that, there's lots of other consultations across the country. We didn't know to go into that again. I think that's history now. And then we had Bintimani, which was targeted for the 23rd, 24th, and 25th May. It was not easy. But I think Sierra Leoneans once more showed courage and patience and showed determination that once more we can score goals. Bintimani 1 was whether we should have democracy in this country. And after Bintimani 1, we succeeded as Sierra Leonean, we have democracy. Bintimani 2 was the issue of peace. And after that, Sierra Leoneans once again were able to establish peace in this country. So on 2 occasions, Sierra Leoneans have come together and we have achieved our desired goal, democracy and peace. Ladies and gentlemen, for a 3rd time again, under the same leadership, we agree that we need to sustain our democracy through peace and national cohesion. And at Bintimani 3, we have been able again to lay the foundation to achieve another goal.
Thanks so much for that comprehensive report. Well, the government of Sierra Leone, with support from the national and international stakeholders, on Saturday, 25th May 2019, concludes a 3-day National Peace and Cohesion Conference at the Bintimani Conference Hall, Aberdeen in Freetown, where His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio promised to build a peace commission that will take on board all facets of society. Joining now in the studio to look at where the process is the Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs, Amara Kalon. Mr. Minister, good morning and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning, Raman, and good morning, viewers and listeners out there.
I'm also great to have you in the studios.
My pleasure.
Great. Mr. Minister, where, as we speak, is the process of implementation of the recommendation of the Bintimani 3 conference is?
Yeah, thank you very much. As at now, what we have been doing is finalizing the report from the Bintimani 3, doing our retirement, and at the same time fixing our proposal for an all-out rolling out of the outcome of Bintimani 3, meaning we need to visit every chiefdom in this country, talk with the people, make sure that we sensitize them and raise their awareness on the need for the Peace and National Cohesion Commission, and what the people of Sierra Leone, the people that represented the 7 million people at Bintimani 3, what they agreed on as to what the commission is, what it will be, what will be the job. But also, we are running other parallel programs. While we are putting our proposal together to see how we can engage the population of this country, we are also working to make sure that we work on the white paper, because the communique will inform the content of the white paper, and that white paper will have to be tabled, at cabinet committee meeting. Once it's approved, then we now have it transformed into a bill, and that bill will be tabled. So as I'm talking now, we are now putting together the necessary resources to make sure that we have the white paper, and at the same time we engage the country as large.
Perhaps for the benefit of hindsight, the lay public might be wondering as to what really constitutes some of this recommendation. The principal among them, what are they?
Yeah, well, we all know that the Bintimani was premised on the need for the establishment of a Peace and National Cohesion Commission. We had consultation. The consultation across the country was meant to gauge opinions and work and draw responses from the population as to what were really the cause of the problems we are having as Sierra Leoneans. Don't forget 58 years back when we got our independence, we have been struggling with development, we have been struggling with peace, we have been struggling with our cohesion and our identity. So over the period, lot of issues came up. So what we want to do is not only to look at the bigger issues or the causes of conflict, but we want to go deeper down to it. For example, if you go at community level, what we might say are the causes of conflict at national level might be different from the causes of conflict at the community level. So we draw those opinions from the public, and then we went to Bintimani 3, where we also sat together with people both within and out of the country to discuss. And so many things came up. And one of the key issues is what are really the causes of our problems in Sierra Leone. Because so many times people try to say that Sierra Leone is not stable. I think I beg to differ. Stability in itself, is a relative word. Because when we talk about stability, children will not be going to school. Workers will not be going to work. There will be police all over the street, manning the street. There will be the upsurge of crimes all over the country. You will see military men moving with arms. Yeah? But in Sierra Leone, everything is normal. What we are having is isolated cases of differences in opinion as a result of we can say political ideology. But they just die down gradually after the situation that gravitated occur. For example, in Kono, we've just completed an election in Kono and Cambia. Very peaceful election. Very peaceful election. Though there might be differences, people might argue in the street, but it has died down. The results are out. People have accepted the result, and we are moving on. So when we talk about instability, meaning people would go to work, children will go to school, the hospitals will be closed, the banks will be closed, but everything is going normal. So we look at the causes of the problems at Bintimani 3. Then from there we went on to look at what will be the recommendation to settle these issues. So they came out clearly. Then we went on to look what will be the composition of the commission also. So the people of Sierra Leone also agree and made recommendation as to what would be the composition of the commission. And they went further to look at what will be the mandate of the commission. So these are the outcomes that form the communique for Bintimani 3.
Again, Mr. Minister, you in your highlight, you reiterated that the first Bintimani conference was about engendering democracy. The second was about engendering peace, and the third conference is about consolidating the peace that we've already achieved. But you reiterated also that there is, in your view, there is nothing like a political tension. But depending to who you talk to, they will tell you there is a kind of political obsession in the country that people generally wouldn't want to see such a situation.
I agree. Raman, let's draw examples.
And now we've seen where you've concluded this conference and what government commitment is in ensuring that they follow each and every element of the recommendation to the fullest.
Raman, there is an adage which says, in the time of peace be prepared for war, and in time of war you prepare for peace. Sierra Leone is peaceful. We all agree to that. Yeah. Even within your own family, every day there might be a problem with you and your children. They might steal something. They might break the cups. They might refuse to do what they are supposed to do.
But you don't allow a latent conflict to get to
Perfect.
an outpost.
So at the end of the day, what you do is to lay the foundation upon which you as in a family will continue to discuss. To make sure that you remind them, you remind the children, you remind the wife as to the need why you need to dialogue, why you need to consult, so that the issues happening in the home will not reoccur. And that's what we are talking about here. There is no country in the world where you don't have problems. Look at America. Even with all the democracy in the world, America is not even in the first 10 of the most peaceful nation in the world. But they are striving. They are the best nation in the world. That doesn't stop them. There might be, in the process of development, there are differences in opinion. There are differences in ideology. Sitting here, me and you can discuss. We will agree to disagree and disagree to agree. But that doesn't mean we have problems. Political ideology are political ideologies. When you go down to the communities, you meet the people within their home, they are okay. Even though they voted for different political parties. But the ideologies at the elite part of it, where we call the political parties, They believe in their ideology. We don't believe in the Bintimani, in the Lunge Bridge. It's an ideological difference. Another party will say, I don't believe in the Lunge Bridge. I said, people will say, we believe in the Lunge Bridge. We are going to build the Lunge Bridge. It's an ideological differences. Argument might spur up in communities, in areas, but that doesn't mean people are not living in peace. People are sleeping. At night, we have the police moving around. There might be criminals around, but that doesn't mean the country is peaceful. We have not reached that state where we can say there is no peace in this nation. Because what is happening is isolated cases. Since the situation that occurs during the court hearing, yeah? After that, what had happened? People have gone back to normal business. Because those are isolated, they do occur. Because we are human beings. We tend to respond to conditions. And when we respond, we go back, we analyze and say, okay, can we forge ahead? That is just usual in society.
So now the indication is there are recommendations immediately after the conference. Are we looking forward to the establishment of the commission before those recommendations are going to be implemented?
Well, the recommendation itself calls for the establishment of the commission.
Of the commission.
So part of the recommendation is the establishment of the commission. Don't forget, Bintimani 3 was meant, a proposal was made by the president as a policy statement in the state opening of parliament that we need to establish a peace and national cohesion commission. So that proposal was drafted into a green paper. And that green paper was taken around the country for consultation and more input. And that informed the agenda for Bintimani 3. Now, Bintimani 3 was meant to get the opinion of Sierra Leonean as to whether there is a need for the establishment of a peace and national cohesion. So, meaning we need to look at whether we have problems that need to be addressed in this country. So, if there are problems, then is there a need for the establishment? If there are no problems at all, then we don't need to establish a commission. But because we know there are emerging issues that need to be addressed. And this issue don't really mean has to do with conflict between one party or one person to another, but it also has to do with even job seeking. How do we address the issue of equal and equity distribution of resources? Mm-hmm. Those are the issues that came up from Bintimani. The people of Sierra Leone, we have the Truth and Reconciliation report. What have we done with it since 2004? Can we look at those recommendations, we activate them, we trigger them, and let put them into practice? What about the reviewed constitution? If we are saying the 1991 constitution does not represent the democratic platform of this country, then what are we going to do? So that the acclaimed or the alleged issues around the constitution can be addressed. So the people say, can we go back to this constitution? Can we review the constitution and get it back to parliament?
So I come back to the question. Establishment of the constitution is the outcome of the recommendation of the conference.
I agree.
So are we saying principally that immediately after its establishment, the commission will have the statutory mandate to actually implement some of these strong national calls of action? Strongly,
because we have got problem with, for example, the equity and equal distribution of resources in this country. Yeah. When a political party, we have seen it over the years, wherein you see just one region or one district benefiting from the other than the other. Yeah, we are seeing wherein even the issue of recruitment, have been in a way wherein people are not happy with it for the past years. So the commission is coming out to look at what can we do based on the recommendation from Bintimani 3. So the people we are saying, can we have an equal and equity distribution of resources across the country? So how are we going to do it? We need to, the commission will look at how is the Public Service Commission operating. So they will establish an audit system for the Public Service Commission if the need for it. So they will look at how the recruitment process is being done. Is it fair enough? Are Sierra Leoneans across the board, regardless of tribe, religion or region, are really getting access to the recruitment process? So meaning it's not that the commission is going to do the direct implementation, but they are working with institutions to make sure that the recommendations from Bintimani 3 are put in it. So it's like they will be acting as a check and balances on behalf of the government to make sure that the issues that brought the 11 years old war in our country will not reoccur. And those issues are equally in the Truth and Reconciliation report, which says there were unequal and inequity distribution of resources across the country. That's why we had the war. There was an issue wherein there is suppression of even the press houses, people are not allowed to speak over the years, so that brought the war. So how can we address that issue? So that's why you see even the Ministry of Information now is taking the lead in looking at the Public Order Act, Section 5 of the Public Order Act, to see how it can be reviewed to make it comfortable in the 21st this democratic situation.
Mr. Minister, could this be the responsibility of the ministry as you are providing a kind of oversight now, where His Excellency reiterated that the Commission will take on board all facets of society?
Well, you know...
Is it the responsibility of the Ministry of Political and Public Affairs to ensure that it does it adequately?
Well, what we are doing as a ministry...
principally advise?
What we are doing now as an oversight ministry is to lead the process to the establishment of the commission. Once the commission is established, the act that established the commission will dictate whether the Ministry of Political and Public will continue to provide that supervisory role or otherwise. As you heard from the template from Kenya and Rwanda, Kenya was saying their own commission report directly to the president, and they are not under any other ministry. The one in Rwanda is saying they report to the president and the parliament, and they are not under any ministry. We don't know what will be the content, because what the communique is saying, the recommendation from the commission need to be neutral, it need to be impartial, it need to be independent, it need to be all-out inclusive. So I don't know. A nomenclature, a ministry with the nomenclature of Minister of Political and Public Affairs. I don't know if the describers of that bill will put into it that the ministry will supervise. I don't know, because how can you supervise? It depends on the describers of
exactly. I am looking forward to the framers of that would be act to actually see that delegation to or responsibility rather to the Ministry of Political Affairs, because if we champion in a very good cause. Mr. Minister, let's be frank enough to speak pretty much more so. What constitutes, in your view, the deep-seated challenges that as a nation we ought to actually jump over if we are to have an absolute peace and stability in this country?
Thank you very much. One of the sessions for during Bintimanitri discussed on the issue of peace and development. Yeah, we have seen even in the US or in UK, or you call it Australia, wherein they are saying they are a developed nation. There is fragility there. There is issue of the high crime rate. There is issue of instability to a lesser extent. Yeah, and that's why in the peace index you see that they are not in even the first 10. Yeah, so that tells you that as you move with development, you are faced with more challenges. Yeah, in Sierra Leone, what we are seeing is the fact that people get hyped and are angry every day, every moment, because people are saying for 58 years we have been doing the same thing the same way, and we have not been able to get the result right. Yeah, and so what we have seen is people migrating from Sierra Leone to other countries to seek for greener pastures. Those of us who are unable to move, that decided to stay in this country, we find it difficult to fit ourselves into the system. Because in Sierra Leone, we have refused to set systems. And for us to set systems, we need to set standards. People are applying every day to go to America for visa for America. When they go there, they fit into the system because there's already a system. You have no way to bypass the system. You reach at the airport, you are stamped, every details of you is now in every place, every system in America. So you go everywhere. At the click of a button, every detail about you is there. So it's difficult for you to override the system. But for us in Sierra Leone, we are still grappling with the issue of establish a governance system. And unless and until we are able to set that governance system right, wherein the people will fit into the system as it is. For now, there is no system. And that's why as a government, we are looking at how can we set the system. People having access to physical cash.
Are we late in catching up with that?
We are late. So that's why we are now, for example, when the issue of the Lungi Bridge came up, you see people, we hear people saying it's not timely. So when is the time? People are living here, going to America, going to, even, let's take a simple example, Ghana. They go to Ghana, they go to the Independence Square, they take pictures at the Independence Square, post it on Facebook, and they bluff with it. Why can't we have similar one? They are paying to get to the Independence Square, and that money is going to the government, and the government is using it to create more infrastructure. For us, we don't have it here. We have our children going to China, taking pictures in complex places, selling it, and we are happy about it, and we say, oh, Salone, are we Salone before this one? And now we are saying we want Salone to be as it is. And people are saying it's not timely. When it will be timely? We are late already. And we need to catch up with the development.
Principally, in your view, do you think we are haunted by our political ideologies that is causing us what I may refer to a kind of arrested development?
To a greater extent, I agree with you. Because what we have done is to lay our identity as Sierra Leoneans apart, and we have taken the political ideology, as a sacred system. And unless and until we try to reorientate our mindset as Sierra Leoneans, to strongly believe that it does not necessarily mean that my own political party or government should be in power for me to be part of the development process.
Mr. Minister, people attempting to throw spanners on the good work of the government's initiative for the establishment of the commission begins to be questioned already. Where, as we speak, there are incidents of public discontent. The recent incident at Poloko, where the former vice president was broadly attacked by the Sierra Leone police, the views of their supporters, and also the withdrawal of the security details by the former president, Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma, the flag bearer of the APC, Dr. Samura Kamara, all those clear indication that the government is not really genuine in its quest to building a very cohesive society. When I sit all by myself and look at what efforts you guys are frolicking within the governance structure, the entire objective is to build stronger government institutions.
I agree with you. Now let me take you a little back to what happened during the planning process for Binti Manitri.
Yeah.
We have these press releases all over the country calling for the postponement or the cancellation of Binti Manitri. Yeah? And for me, it's an opinion. Those are people's opinion, and you cannot challenge somebody's opinion. You have your story, I have my story, and there is the living truth. So what can we do as people of the Fourth Estate is to go back and search for the living truth. And that's what is lacking in our nation as Sierra Leoneans. We hold people's opinion and we refuse to accept those opinions. It's your opinion to say what you want to say, but I believe in what I believe, and the living truth is there. I refuse to be distracted with those press releases. Our ministry refused to be distracted with those press, because their opinion. They believe enough consultation was not done. But did they go to our office to check? No. They didn't go. But they came up with press release raising issues that have been addressed 3-4 months back, but they refuse to go to the office because they believe they want to dictate the pace. But we refuse to be distracted, and we move along, and we have been Timanitri. So let's fast forward. What is happening is like people are taking the story as it is. But how many of us have gone to the ground? For example, what happened at the APC office on that day? I was right in my office at the audit service window, watching exactly when it all started, the inception. But the media came in at almost the middle or the end stage, where the police are responding now. They were responding. So the media came in at that time. So the picture, the videos that came out was when the police were responding. But there was no story to tell what happened and what causes the police to respond.
Are you justifying?
I'm not justifying.
Are you justifying the acts of the police?
I'm not justifying the act.
There wasn't a proportional response to the incident.
Yeah, it came again. There we come again to the story as to when do the police respond, the gravity and strength of their response. Yeah, it's a judgment that the people within that jurisdiction can do the analysis. For we can come up with opinions. Yeah, I was right there looking when the guys were barricading the 3 streets and burning tires on the tarmac. And you know what that means? Thousands of dollars, millions of dollars have been spent on that tarmac. For somebody to burn tire on that tarmac to weaken the strength of that tarmac, causing the government millions of dollars again to replace it. Putting people's tables and chairs, market women, the tables of market women, whose livelihood depends on that table, and you are using that table, burning that table on the street, depriving that person from having his daily food, depriving innocent Sierra Leoneans from using the streets at that particular point in time. So because of your own right, you are depriving another man's own right to walk the street freely. So depriving other people because you feel it's your own right to block the road. But I have also the right to move. And the police came and warned. The rules of engagement was very clear. They applied the rules of engagement. And then we saw people taking pelting stones, using instruments. And one of the police was injured. And don't forget, the police are human beings like me and you. They have decided to defend me and you when we are sleeping. They have their children, they have their parents, they have their family. It might be one of them might be my brother. If he is killed in that action, what will happen? They will say one policeman don't die, and that they couldn't say, excuse me for that. When they say accident happened, they say, oh, nobody know that I passed the apprentice. The apprentice not a mortal man. So I'm not saying that what the police did, I cannot analyze the situation whether aggravated force was used or not. But what I'm saying, when we want to tell the story, let's go back to where it all started. Then we start to hold people responsible for setting the agenda. Somebody set the agenda that brought what happened. So can we go to where it all started, the cause of the problem, rather than looking at the problem? So that's for me, that's the mismatch we always have in Sierra Leone. I'm not saying again, because I'm not a policeman. I'm not a security expert. I think the security expert have gone on radio and television and they have made their case. But what I'm saying is, for every problem there is a cause, and we need to go to the cause and not only look at the problem, because we can address the problem, but as long as we refuse to address the cause, then the problem will continue to exist.
Just like just like how military officers could often say the cause of action, what actually precipitated the intervention of the police. But there are instances when there are times you are called upon for command and individual responsibility if your response is not proportionate to the provocation meted out by it. But that aside, Mr. Minister, let's situate what you've just highlighted in relation to the need for building a national cohesion as we move forward. I understand that you will be engaging community people, district chiefdoms, town hall meetings to actually sensitize them on some of these recommendations.
Yeah, as I'm talking to you now, we have already...
Do you have the resources?
We have already submitted our proposal.
Okay.
And the good thing about this, the international body, our donor partners, are willing, ever willing, to join us in this drive. So we have the UNDP, we have the UN Women, we have UNICEF, and all the other institutions are ready to partner with us. We have already sent in our proposal to the Office of the Chief Minister and the Finance, so that we can have the necessary resources. Resources are limited, so we are scrambling for the resources, but we are quite sure, because we want to keep on this issue for the next 6 months.
Okay.
From July to December, we want to engage fully, and we want to engage not only on radio and television. We want to go on the ground. We want to engage at chiefdom level. We talk to the paramount chief separately, and their section chief, their town chief. We try to make them understand on which platform, on which premise they will be able, to handle issues that has to do with the commission. We want to talk to the petty traders. We want to talk to the drivers' union. We want to talk to the youth. We want to talk to the women. We want to talk to the disabled, so that by the time the commission is established, all of them will be fully aware as to what will be their own roles and responsibility in making sure that the commission succeeds. Because we don't want to lay that burden on the commission. Because if we wait for the commission to take its own burden, then it will be difficult and it will be time consuming. So what we are doing as a ministry is laying the premise and establishing the platform for the operations of the commission. So hence the commission is established around December or January. Then they will have a smooth flow. The people will be fully informed, they will be ready, and they will be willing to participate and take their rights and responsibilities.
Mr. Minister, I'll come back to you to look at where lies the possibility of getting some other commissions becoming pretty much redundant, like the NCD, the National Commission for Democracy, when once the Peace Commission is going to be established. I'll come back to you. Let's move along with the program. The executive of the Kenema Old Student Association, KOSA, has on Friday, 21st June 2019, handed over the mantle of leadership to the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Ali Kaba, at a ceremony held at the Back Complex Kintom, where he outlined plans on how he intends to move the executive forward. Let's take a look.
School for the next 1 year. But I wanted to do four. Fortunately for us in KOSA, our newly elected president has also been given a new assignment to represent all of us outside of Sierra Leone. So tonight, it's not only going to be welcoming him into the leadership of KOSA as our president and his executive, but to want, I would wish our members of the band here still remember how to play some very lovely tunes. So dance the night away and wish our president farewell and good wishes for his new position.
It's another watershed period in the history of our organization, KOSA. KOSA is a symbol of excellence, a symbol of commitment to higher ideals. And today, with my colleagues standing here with me, we are affirming our commitment to uphold the ideals of KOSA and to make our school always the school of the East, the best in the East, the University of the East, a University of the East that
Well, that's the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Ali Kaba, assuming the mantle of leadership of the Kenema Old Student Association. Mr. Minister, let's come back to the question of the formation of the NCD, its existence rather, whether with the formation of the Peace Commission, shorter commission will not be seen redundant in its function.
I'm not sure. What the commission will be doing is to complement the effort of other commissions. You know, the commission itself will not be operating independently. I gave you an example. You have the Public Service Commission that's responsible for the recruitment process of the civil service. Yeah, and if you heard what the guy from Kenya was saying, they decided to establish an audit with their Public Service Commission, so that every recruitment process is being audited to make sure that there is an even and equal opportunity for everybody across the board, you know, to be recruited. Yeah. So the Public Service Commission will continue with their own mandate. But what the Peace and National Cohesion Commission will be doing is to make sure that the premise upon which the Service Commission is operating is being used to the fullest, to make sure that the NCD has the responsibility for civic education, consolidating democracy, sustaining peace. They will continue their mandate. Yeah, nobody will take their mandate from them. So they will continue with their civic orientation. What the commission will be doing is to make sure that the information, the process is being used by the National Commission for Democracy to outreach is done in a way wherein it cuts across. The information doesn't create problems, you know, for those listening to it. That's what the commission will be doing. So the commission will be providing backstopping for other commissions. I agree that there might be a situation where some commission will be rendered redundant. as a result of the establishment of this commission. I said it might. They don't take me for my words. It's not definite. So, but if that happens, then it also depends on what is the operation of that commission. That will be redundant. Yeah? Because what we are seeing, we have over 30 commissions in this country. How many of them are really operational? How many of them are really relevant? How many of them are really providing the services for the population of this country?
You may equally want to ask a question as to whether they are fully resourced.
It all depends again. Most of these commissions, if you look at the budget for every year, they have their budgetary allocations. But if you are not, if the content of your strategic plan or your annual work plan doesn't conform,
you're not talking as a research student.
Exactly. If your strategic plan does not conform with the budgetary allocation, then you won't have access to it. That's the problem we are having. When I took up the ministry, we decided to relocate the Office of Diaspora and Affairs. We have this Office of Diaspora and Affairs. What are they doing? Their mandate does not conform with the mandate of the Ministry of Political and Public Affairs. One will have said, well, my friend, why can't you keep it so that you will have more agencies under you? And you will be tough as a deputy minister to control more agencies.
So it's now subsumed under
so
the
now it has been
affairs.
to the foreign affairs, because we cannot hold on to it when it is not relevant to our ministry. And also, we doesn't see the need why it will be a standalone agency when we already have our embassies across the country that can handle those issues. So we asked for an institutional reform. The institutional reform was done, and they advised that it needs to be moved to foreign affairs as a department under the foreign affairs. So it reduces the resources, and it makes it more relevant now, because at the embassy level across the country, the embassy will serve now, they will provide an office at the embassy for a different country to address the issue of diasporans and how we can look at how can we encourage them to invest in the nation. So that's what we are talking about here. So I'm sure there are other institutions, other commissions, agencies across the country that have the same. So when the commission comes, we'll have to look at all those commissions and see if there is any commission whose mandate is subsumed under the mandate of this new commission, then we just have to make it redundant and have it as a department under the commission.
Mr. Minister, I'm pretty much keen equally to know, aside from championing the Bunti Mani 3 conference, which was a huge success, what constitutes some of your core mandates of the Ministry of Public and Political Affairs?
Yeah, well, when we came, there was almost 12 objectives set for the ministry, and we came to understand the reason why that ministry was redundant for the past years, because those 12 objectives or job description they were not put in a way where people can understand it decisively. For example, serving one of the objectives is saying the ministry should serve as intermediary between the executive and the legislature. Full stop. Yeah. How do you put that into practice? Becomes very difficult. So now we have three core mandates, which are very broad, that absorb all the 12 objectives. One is we are there to propagate government programs and policies, which is very important, which we most of the development practitioner call the development education. Yeah. In the manifesto, during the elections, you have the political parties coming out with their manifestos, and they base their argument that the dictate of the manifestos were drawn from the opinions of the population of this country as to what needs to be done, and the SLPP won. That manifesto promises we are transformed into a national development plan, which is there now. Now, our responsibility as a ministry is to take the national development plan and all its content back to the people, informing them what the government desires and want to roll out for the people of this country for the next 5 years. And we are not only going to stop there, but we have to look at what would be the possible outcomes and impacts of those services and those plans.
And as a ministry, you've not commenced any possible outreach as far as the development plan was concerned since it was launched?
Well, again, when we came, we want to restructure the ministry. This ministry was almost redundant. Yeah. So what we did was to carry out a restructuring. We have a problem. We have a program presently at the SLBC on every Wednesday. What we want to do is how we can roll out that particular program to other television stations and radio stations across the country. So we have already set our strategic plan, and good enough, we have been able to convince finance that our strategic plan is unique enough and relevant enough to attract the resources we required for it, and we have been able. So what we are doing now is the Binti Monetary came in at a time when it is more relevant, because if we want to talk about development education, then we need to talk about national cohesion, so that when we go out there to talk to the people, we'll be able to talk to them in unison and not in distracted form.
Where do you bring in the Ministry of Information and Communication in a situation where you want to have a structured communication strategy?
This question do come up in many cases. I think the Ministry of Information and Communication has the responsibility to put out their information. Yeah, at any point in time, they provide the information and they look at the immediate output of those information. So something happened today, the Minister of Information is there to put it out. But what we look beyond the information as a ministry. We look just beyond giving out the information. But what is the benefit of the information going out there to the people of this country? For example, the Ministry of Information, they are presently engaged, in sensitizing people about the free quality education and its package. Now, what we have catalogued in our strategic plan is to now talk to the people why they need to take advantage of the free quality education and what will be the possible outcomes. If your child becomes a medical doctor in that particular chiefdom, it will not only serve you as a family, but it will serve the entire community.
Okay. Mr. Minister, let me hold you and bring a very important public notice here for the benefit of all. From the Ministry of Social Welfare, Gender and Children Affairs, Hajj 2019. Hajj is the fifth pillar of Islam, and Muslims across the country who can afford it take part in the process every year. In that regard, the Ministry of Social Welfare, Gender and Children Affairs wishes to inform the general public that the 2019 Hajj process has officially started. Prospective pilgrims should obtain the free of charge at the ministry or online from the ministry website www.mswgca.gov/Hajj. Payment for this year's Hajj process is 5,000 United States dollars. The equivalent can be paid in euros at the prevailing exchange rate. All payment must be made at the Sierra Leone Commercial Bank in the following account number. Account name National Pilgrimage Fund. Account number 003 001 039 7084 12187 for the United States dollar account. For the Leo's account is 003 00 103 9708 112166 for the Leons. For more information, please contact any of the following: Chairman Hajj Committee, Abdullah Bayo, Fode Sela and Mohammed Keita, or visit the website as indicated. Signed, David W.S. Banya, Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Hajj Committee. This is the end of the public notice from the Minister of Social Welfare, Gender and Children Affairs. Mr. Minister, we don't seem to be having much time left. In the next couple of months or the next couple of weeks coming, what are your key embarkment process in terms of outlets and some of these recommendations? One will expect that this thing should be localized. You wouldn't expect going as far as Krubola, going with the Queen's language, where perhaps you will not engage people in their local dialect. How do you intend to do it?
So I think in our proposal, we've been able to identify 3 clusters.
Okay.
One is the media interactive sessions. Yeah. So we are going to bring all the television stations, all the radio stations across the country. I'm going to engage them for 6-month period. Yeah. And what we're going to do is to make sure that we cascade the communique into the various languages.
This could be an economic boom for the television station.
Why not? Why not? So we are going to cascade the information from English to the different languages, okay, so that they will be played on radio and television for the next 6 months. Yeah. And our next cluster is going to be community engagement. So we'll be visiting chiefdoms, all the 192 chiefdoms. Initially, we were talking about the district, but we changed our mind that we need to go to the chiefdom. That is the lowest cadre in our political hierarchy. So we want to engage at chiefdom level, talk to the chiefs, their section chief, the town chiefs, the market women, everybody, so that we engage them. Our third cluster is how we do ICT, information, communication, and technology. So we're going to have wall bills, handbills, billboards. Going to also have stickers. So if we are going to talk with the Okada riders after the discussion, we provide them with stickers so that they can have them sending out different messages in different languages. Yeah, and at community level, the engagement will be on the localized language. So if we, for example, if we go to my hometown, Kwenadugu, there are 7 different types. So we'll be looking at 7 different people at each community to talk on the 7 different tribes. Yeah, so that we make sure that the information sinks into the minds and hearts of Sierra Leoneans to understand that peace itself should not be taken for granted, but rather we need to make sure that we hold peace, because at any point in time we'll lose that peace, and if we lose that peace, it's going to be a serious problem for us as Sierra Leoneans. So these are the 3 clusters in our proposal. They are just short in their explanation, but the narrative itself is complex, and the chain we are going to make sure that the chain reach every corner. So that way, in fact, the media interactive session is going to be all out inclusive and exhaustive, to make sure that every radio station, every television station, takes it as a responsibility and own the program themselves. So even if where we are going to provide resources, but they also show that this is an obligation, a moral responsibility on them to keep the peace in this country.
I was just wondering as to where you will morph your effort to engage Sierra Leone out of this country. 2 political parties readily comes to mind. The SLPP and the APC, where they claim to be having people they tag as soldiers of fortune that are given a lot of information on WhatsApp, Facebook, you name it, giving some disturbing information as if we are in a state of war. How will it extend the knowledge for them to understand that we are engaging in a kind of peace overture in the country?
That is part of it.
And you guys should cease doing what you're doing.
That's the part of cluster 3, the ICT.
Okay.
We are going to make use of the social media. In fact, I'm talking to you now, we have a media team.
Okay.
And this media team is headed by Adul Fonte. We have brought in IT guys looking at, how do you call it, skits, developing skits on different languages, and also animating information which we can send on social media. So on a daily basis, we'll be sending different messages. While we have the IT guys building it, we'll be sending it on a continuous basis. So that, because one of the major problems we were able to identify is, if you engage once, people get lost in the system. But when you continuously engage the mind
and buffet
them with the relevant information, then it reorientate the mindset. So that's the kind of strategy we want to use. Constant engagement.
I give you a platform now to just in 40 seconds to actually speak to Sierra Leonean outside, for them to see the need for upholding this peace and move forward as a nation.
The peace of Sierra Leone is in the hands of Sierra Leoneans. And for us as Sierra Leoneans, we need to understand that the only way we can talk about development is when we have peace. And peace itself does not necessarily mean when we take arms against ourselves, but when we even destroy our own integrity. There is an adage from Lockheed which says it takes 1 million people to build up a reputation. It takes just one stupid fool in 1 second to destroy it all. So let us be very careful the information we send out. As I'm talking to you now, the same people will not be here again if I want to do a disclaimer of the same information. They will not be the same people listening to this television again. So be careful what you say, because we are Sierra Leoneans. Let's try to keep our identity as Sierra Leoneans, because that's the only identity that is in our passport, in our ID card. When you go out there at the airport, they don't ask you whether you're SLP or APC. Are you a Sierra Leonean? Yes. So the Sierra Leoneans, let's continue to forge for the peace and let's continue to work in a cohesive force to develop our nation. Thank you.
Is Amara Kalon, Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs Ministry. Thank you so much for honoring this invitation, being part of this program this morning.
It's my pleasure.
And this is how I draw the curtain into this edition of the program. Thanks to my studio guests, Amara Kalon, Deputy Minister. My name is Abdul Rahman Kamara. Have a wonderful day.
The death is announced of Abdul Christian Karim Kamara, commonly called AKK, which death took place on Wednesday, the 19th of June 2019. He was 31 years. He is survived by his mother, Belinda Wright, of Rokel Commercial Bank. Sympathizers may call at number 28 Desmond Lane, Angola Town, or on the following mobile numbers: 077 058 802 or 078-334-902. Funeral arrangement will be announced later.
When you feel all alone in this world and there's nobody to count your tears, just remember, no matter where you are, Allah knows. Allah knows.
Inna lillahi wa inna lillahi raji'un. It's with deep regret the Barry families, at home and abroad, announces the sudden death of their dear beloved son, brother, uncle, father, and friend, Ibrahim Bailo Barry, commonly called Dino or Councillor, whose sudden death took place in a road accident at the Mile 91 highway. He was 39 years, formerly of number 15A, Leach Street, Moritown, and also former worker of the Anti-Corruption Commission and a former aspirant of Ward 130 for the Sierra Leone People's Party. He is survived by his children, Bailo Barry, Mabel Barry, and Favor Barry, wife, Fatmata Intuma Kamara, mother, Jaja Barry, father, Mr. Ibrahim Barry, sisters, Zainab Barry, and Memuna Barry. Funeral arrangement will take place at number 15A, Leach Street, Moritown, and he will be buried on Monday, the 24th of June 2019, at the Moritown Cemetery after a prayer at the Masjid Tunkara Mosque, Moritown. Meanwhile, sympathizers may contact his former address, 15A Leach Street, Moritown, or on the following mobile numbers: 078-006661 or 077-648-805. The family apologize for any omission of name or names, as you are all considered very important. May his precious soul rest in perfect peace.
Every star in this whole universe, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you lose someone close to your heart, see your whole world fall apart, and you try to go on, but it seems so hard. Allah knows. See, we all have a path to choose.
It is with regret the passing of Mr. Anita Tobacco Mexica, who suddenly passed away on Tuesday, 18th June 2019. Funeral arrangement will be announced later.
We will counter this, and he was meaning Russia and its European partners. It's not clear, and he did not specify how Russia will counter these measures, and also not if the European partners are actually agreeing with Russia on this. But he did say on Friday that Russia wants to help Iran to export oil and also help Iran with its banking system. He has been annoyed before. He has been making comments over the past week that this new European system that's been deployed basically and designed to avoid U.S. sanctions, that's not going anywhere right now. And he has been saying that Russia wants to help Iran with its exports. It's that Iran is suffering very badly right now. But if this is just a threat, because he has been saying it for quite a while, or this is a serious intention by Russia, that remains to be seen. There's a very important meeting this week on Friday with the European partners and Russia, who are still endorsing the Iran deal. And also there's a very important meeting of the security ministers of Russia, the United States and Israel in Jerusalem. So this is also all part of the negotiations for these very important meetings this week.
Step, many thanks. Let's bring in Zain Basravi then, who's in Iran's capital, Tehran. Washington, Zain, says that it's willing to talk to Tehran with no preconditions. What's the reaction to that there from Iran?
Well, Iranian leaders here in Tehran have always said that any offers of that sort from U.S. officials cannot be taken seriously. They aren't really paying a lot of attention to what the Americans are saying. They're saying these offers of talks are disingenuous because they're always complemented by the continuation of what Iranians say is economic terrorism and economic war that the United States is waging against Iran, and referring to the maximum pressure campaign that the United States has been carrying out against Iranian people. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Abbas Mousavi, in a briefing earlier today, said about the new sanctions, what more is there left to sanction that the United States hasn't sanctioned in some form in the last 40 years? So he almost jested that the U.S. has sanctioned everything it possibly could. The banking sanctions mean that trade is almost completely impossible with Iran on any sort of material, raw materials or produced goods here in Iran. And as far as Americans trying to build a consensus against Iran, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, Mr. Mousavi, also said that the United States in all of its travels to the region is largely wasting its time.
Forming a coalition is nothing new. We've seen it before. They fail. Iran is a powerful country with 15 neighboring countries, and we stand tall in the region. So forming a coalition against such a country is not an easy thing to do. Even if US officials come to the region every week and have meetings to try and form a coalition, it's not easy to do.
Saying Iran's been consistent in saying that it's going to pull out of parts of the nuclear deal. What's the latest on that?
Well, in this briefing, Mr. Mousavi also said that the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or the 2015 nuclear deal, he said that there is an imbalance in that deal, that the U.S. pullout has imbalanced that deal, and that Iran's decision announced by President Hassan Rouhani over a month ago to begin non-compliance with parts of the nuclear deal is being done in line with the tenets of that agreement, saying that since the U.S. pulled out, Iran has a right to begin non-compliance with parts of the deal. The deadline set for 60 days expires on July 7th. After that, Iran says it will up the ante and begin further non-compliance with parts of the deal. They've maintained that position strongly for some time. Now, Mr. Mousavi at the briefing today seemed to put a number on what might make it possible for Iran to do a U-turn. Addressing a question about a European bypass to banking sanctions, he said that they don't seem to be going far enough. He said that before the United States pulled out, Iran was selling 2.8 million barrels of oil a day, and if they were to approach something close to that, then it might be possible for Iran to rethink its non-cooperation with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. But he said any sort of mundane agreement would not be a satisfactory move for leaders here in Tehran.
Zain, many thanks. Al Jazeera's Zain Basravi there, reporting live from Tehran. Voters in Istanbul have shattered the AK Party's grip on power over the country's largest city. The opposition candidate won a rerun mayoral election. It's a huge setback for President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, whose party has run the city for 25 years. The opposition narrowly won the first election in March before the AK Party forced a rerun, claiming fraud. With nearly all votes counted, Ekrem İmamoğlu from the opposition CHP has won with 54%, while the AK Party's Binali Yildirim is on 45%. Al Jazeera's Hashim Al-Hobara reports from Istanbul.
Istanbul changes hands for the first time since 1994. The main opposition CHP candidate Ekrem İmamoğlu has been elected mayor of the city in a controversial rerun that has polarized the nation. The 49-year-old mayor was relatively unknown, but has managed to win the backing of crucial allies such as the Kurdish People's Democratic Party, the HDP.
I'm ready to work with the Turkish president in harmony, and I aspire to do that. I am announcing that in front of all the residents of Istanbul. Once the legal process is completed, after receiving the mandate and assuming the office, I would like to visit him as soon as possible to present a roadmap and opinions and listen to his views.
İmamoğlu's win is a major setback for Binali Yildirim, former Prime Minister and AK Party's candidate for the mayoral election. Yildirim's loss is widely interpreted here as an indication of AK Party's waning influence.
According to the results, as of now, my competitor is leading the race. I congratulate him and wish him good luck.
On March 31st, İmamoğlu defeated his rival by a narrow margin. AK Party contested the outcome, claiming that some of the results weren't ratified by election officials. The higher election board ordered a re-election. Undeterred by the decision, İmamoğlu held multiple rallies reminding his supporters that their victory was stolen by AK Party.
Democracy has won. Justice has won. Our people care about democracy. I congratulate the future president of the country.
We increased our gains by having more votes from the AK Party supporters, which means they're also disgruntled.
The new mayor faces the delicate task of running the country's biggest, wealthiest and most populous city. But his supporters already see him as the right person to run against President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in the 2023 presidential election. Although this is a local election, its outcome is likely to shape the future of AK Party, which faces a deepening crisis. Loyalists and people across the country all agree Erdogan's ruling party has failed to fix an economy in tatters. Hashim Al-Hobara, Al Jazeera, Istanbul.
Well, let's go live now to Istanbul. Al Jazeera's Selim Kosioglu is there. So the opposition not only won this rerun, but increased its votes in almost every district across Istanbul, Sinem. What does that mean? It's more than just a mayoral seat loss for the AK Party, isn't it?
Well, yes, exactly, Adrian, because yesterday only the Istanbul mayoral election was repeated. So there was just only one voting cast, and the district mayorships were already elected on March 31st. But when you speak to the CHP lawmakers and officials, they tell you that even they didn't expect this 9% of difference, because now the difference is at around 800,000 votes in Istanbul. This is mostly seen as a reaction vote because people are angry that March 31st election was cancelled, and even the AK Party supporters believe that what happened about the annulment was unfair and a mistreatment for Ekrem İmamoğlu.
Sinan, many thanks indeed. Al Jazeera's Sinan Kosioglu there in Istanbul. Political scientist Sinan Beykent is a former advisor to the National Movement Party, or MHP. He joins us now live from Istanbul. Good to have you with us, sir. Is this the beginning of the end electorally for the president and his AK Party, or is it too early to write off such a smart political operator?
Well, I think it's a bit too early because President Erdogan has many moves to make for now. So, for example, just after the first election, so the election in March 31st, Erdogan said that he could want a grand coalition to be formed with the CHP, the Republicans, on the basis of the coalition of Turkey, as he named it. So the opposition leader, Kılıçdaroğlu, the head of the CHP, already had positive reactions vis-à-vis this statement of Erdogan's. So I think Erdogan could even move he could switch his partners, his actual partner, the MHP, the Nationalist Movement Party, and try to encompass a greater part of the Turkish population, of the Turkish electorate, with combining its forces with the CHP. So it's a bit early, I think, to say that it's the beginning of the end.
To what extent, though, is this election result in Istanbul a reaction to the restrictions on personal and media freedoms brought in after the coup attempt in Turkey?
Yes. Of course, there's this media problem in Turkey because the great majority of the Turkish population doesn't trust the actual medias anymore. So it tends to go through the social media channels and the social media sharings, messages, because the Turkish media lost its. It is not seen as trustworthy anymore. So I think, but as I have seen last night, I think that even in the media there are changes to come, I think. The changes, especially in the attitudes.
Okay, is the appetite for change in Istanbul reflected nationally? I mean, if there was an election tomorrow, would Erdogan and his coalition win?
I don't know. This is very speculative, but Istanbul represents Turkey. It's a melting pot of different regions, different ethnic groups, different religious groups, etc. So, and it is the leading city of Turkey, even though it's not the capital city. But I think that Erdogan already lost in big cities on March 31st, such as Ankara, Izmir, Antalya, etc. So this is a huge blow, losing for the second time to the CHP candidate. And I think Erdogan will face harsh criticism inside his party and outside his party, and especially when gossips about Davutoğlu, the former prime minister, and Babacan, the former finance minister of Erdogan, are said to be forming their own parties. So I think we will have a very movemented period in Turkey for the next upcoming months. Yes.
Good to talk to you. So many thanks indeed, Sinan Beykent in Istanbul. You're with the News Hour from Al Jazeera. Still to come on the programme. Fleeing the violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo will take you inside a refugee camp that's sheltering thousands of families. Running away from the so-called deal of the century, Palestinian activists speak out against the US Middle East plan. And in sport, a dream comeback for three-time Grand Slam champion Andy Murray. Salah will be here with all the details a little later in the sport. Ethiopia's regional attorney general, who was shot on Saturday during a coup attempt in the northern Amhara district, has died. 4 other people, including the army chief of staff, were killed in the attacks, led by a high-ranking military official. Al Jazeera's Leah Harding reports now from Addis Ababa.
Ethiopia's army chief of staff, General Sahara Makonnen, seen here in August of last year. He was shot